This is my presentation video. I chose global warming versus climate change. This is a photograph of the world. I chose red because red is kind of solidifies boldness and more of an awareness of what's going on in the world. Greenhouse gases and climates. And how is global warming becoming a effective thing in our lives? How is it becoming more of um, a thing that we need to watch out for? There's a lot of scientists in national academies, and they study the Earth's temperature and the surface, and about 1 degree Fahrenheit in the past century, with accelerated warming during the past 2 decades. There is a new, stronger evidence that most of warmer over the past 50 years is attributable to humans' activities. Human activities have altered the chemical compensation of the atmosphere through the buildup of greenhouse gases, primarily carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Basically, what it's saying here is that us humans have so much like chemicals in the world that we're using that it's basically affecting our greenhouse. It's basically affecting the surface and our air and the atmosphere. It's basically affecting our entire world pretty much, and we've been using these chemicals for a very, very, very long time. You know, these scientists are dedicated on putting their lives into how we're using, what we're using, and what's the effect and the side effects of them. Global temperature trends. This is a graph of the temperature as it goes up. You see, as in 1900s, and it goes on from the 2000. And as you can see, it goes higher and higher and higher. Um, as the temperature goes up each year, the climate just gets really crazy, and they become different. They become a little bit like irregular to what it was the year before, the year prior. You um, this is another graph. The duration of Lake Matadana. This is a lake. It was filled with ice, and throughout the years of the seasons, it began to document and indicating the years and how cold it was and how it melted down. But at a fair point, it wasn't like that until a couple years later. And what caused the temperature of atmosphere to go up? There are many possible mechanisms that can cause the warming of this atmosphere. For example, the natural variation, the climate becomes warmer by internal chaotic dynamics, and that is basically um, a range force of um, atmosphere systems in our Earth that are natural, but it's like it becomes chaotic to where it just overwhelming to what the state as it was before. You know, solar activity, either direct increase of solar energy output and indirect trigger mechanisms due to solar activity through nobody knows how. Greenhouse effects. This is one of the good ones. And increasing greenhouse gases such as CO2, CH4, and CFC, and of course H2O. This is a picture of the real greenhouse. It's kind of like a artificial way of saying it's heating up. Short waves can penetrate the glass panels, and where long waves are trapped inside, basically. And the atmospheric greenhouse effect. Examples of greenhouse: H2O, CO2, CHC, and CFC. Those are the ones I mentioned in the prior slide. Currently, CO2 is the main suspect of causing the global warming since the 20th century because combustion of fossil fuel naturally injects CO2. The combustion of fossil fuels naturally inject CO2 into the atmosphere, and it has increased dramatically since last century. This is the picture right here. It says atmosphere, absorbed by the atmosphere, the water, lately intense heat. It absorbs the water, then it goes right into it. It's crazy. There's your thermals right here. Yeah. So how is CO2 increasing connect to the global warming? Um, Physically, the connection is usually made by climate model, various scenarios. CO2, as I mentioned, and concentration of the atmosphere may cause warming. So basically, CO2 is a main factor of global warming. That's one of the main go-to when it comes to this. Um, for example, the negative feedbacks. Consider declaring a renegotiation over the ocean since there is no cloud and the sun shines on the ocean surface, causing it to be warm. This makes this part of the ocean warmer than other parts, and the air over tends to rise. As we have learned before, rising air expands and cool, causing clouds to form. The formation of clouds will block out the sun, and the solar heating of the ocean surface will cease. It will cause a cease. It won't do anything after that. The surface will start to cool down, thus the cloud formation due to the surface heat. Yeah, it gets very gnarly. How will a fast CO2 concentration increase? And this is another carbon dioxide concentration graph. And you see as it goes up. And this is actually going past our year, actually, in 2017. You can see right here the year 2020, 2050, and so on and forth. And it just dramatically goes higher. Like if we don't stop using CO2 in some of our resources, it's going to be a very, very different story. Projection of future warming. This is another graph. This is a picture of another graph. The degree of the warming will not uniform anywhere or everywhere. Excuse me. High latitudes are more sensitive. There we go. And this is my favorite one, but last but not least, is the melting ice and rising sea levels. As you can see in one of the presentations before, the slides before, I had the melting ice was talking about. And the ice shelves the South Pole and has apparently separated and so collapsed in NASA. High receding high mountain glaciers. And this is my video. Thank you.